So you're a sailor and you are on the water, and what comes to you is this tempest, and someone doesn't seem to care. So you're the sailor, my friends, and you say to the person, well, why are you asleep? Do you not care that we are perishing? Isn't that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Right? Who's been out on a storm on the water? Anyone? Quite a few. So, Robert, tell me what it feels like to be out on a storm on a boat.
Well, actually, it feels from the Gulf to the Navy, we crossed the Bay of Biscay, and it was seas were very, very rough. And looking out, I could see small ships, and then I couldn't see them. Because the troughs.
Yes. So even on a large transport ship, it was very, very troubling. Yes, yes. Who else can convey something about being on the water during a storm? Anyone else? George.
I've been on the water in several storms. I don't think anybody was asleep. I was in a typhoon in the Navy on a destroyer, and around 30 feet up on the bridge, there were waves that were coming out over the bridge. So it was, there were actually, on this particular type of destroyer, there were a couple that were sunk in World War II when they didn't have the ability to forecast the direction of the storm.
So what was your state of being during that typhoon, sir?
Holding on and not wanting to get washed overboard, and worried that the ship wouldn't broach. The stern would come out of the water and you could lose steerage. So it was scary.
Yes. Who else? Eric.
I was coming out of an inlet south of Long Island, and it was a nice day. It wasn't a storm, and I was coming straight out the center of the inlet, and suddenly 3 waves appeared in front of me, and the second one right over the bow of the boat onto the windshield. And I was rather surprised. And all I could do was look back at those 2 little motors on the back of the boat and say, keep pushing. It was a moment. And then just as fast as it came, we passed through it.
So I think suffice it to say that being in the midst of a storm on a boat is a very terrifying thing. That's why, of course, they say, teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Let's put ourselves in their place. Friends, now we're going to read this one more time, as it's something that's important for us to do. I would like us now to read this not as sailors on a boat, but I'd like us to read this as if we are members of the African American community, the members of the church in Charleston. Let us read this now in that light, putting ourselves in their place. Let us read. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, let us go across to the other side. And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him up and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith? And they were filled with great awe, and said to one another, Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? not care that we are perishing. I can imagine that that is the call by some people on this very day. Do you not care that we are perishing in the midst of our own home, in the place of our own sanctuary, in a nation which calls itself free and filled with liberty? Do you not see that we are perishing? Not to be maudlin or anything in that way. I encourage us not to be that, but how would you, if you were in that position, when this scripture comes up, because it might actually be being preached in many African American parishes today, how do you feel? I'm sure you can. You're a human being. You can place yourself in some way in their place. How does this scripture call out to you? Where do we find solace at times when it seems as if, despite the fact of all other things being set up for us, so much is against us? How do you think folks would react? How do people find faith in the midst of this? I see a head shake. I don't know how people find faith. Somebody just did that non-verbally. Perhaps we cannot. Sir.
Why do white people still feel that they can persecute black people? I mean, maybe not these people here, but it happens all the time. I see it every day. I mean, why can't we just accept them as equals?
We may not be able to place ourselves in that position because we, in many ways, we are not. In most ways, if not all ways, we are not. We cannot see what they see. We cannot live as they live. But we are called to hear these words, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" and be mindful that perhaps we are not the ones who are speaking those words. Instead, we are hearing them, and that we need to hear them. That we need to be listening, and that our lives perhaps need to find a way to answer. Answer in the way that we live our lives, answer the way that we share in the world, and answer in the ways that we greet people on the street. Always being mindful. You know, it's said that the person who is of lesser power always needs to be more mindful, always needs to know more than the person who is in power. The person in power, things are just natural because it goes from the, everything happens. It just seems to be happening. This is the way things are supposed to be. But a person who has no power or has less power finds himself having to work their way through the problems, the obstacles. And perhaps we need to be listening just a little bit more how we can remove obstacles before they become deadly. Jesus says, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" From all the news reports that I'm hearing, Jesus did not have to say that to these people. I think it remarkable. I think it remarkable. I think we have lots to learn from that congregation who has been invaded and terrorized. It is remarkable. I have heard the story that they are reaching out to this child, the families of the dead, and saying,